Uh, Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Hamilton. I am currently a senior here and I'm also one of the co-presidents of Native Americans at Harvard College. I am Ho-Chunk from the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska and Kickapoo from the Kickapoo tribe of Kansas.
My name is Anna Kate Cannon. I'm a junior here at the college. I am the other co-president of Native Americans at Harvard College, and I'm a citizen of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. So, welcome to Indigenous Peoples Day. We're honored to have each and every one of you here to celebrate with us.
Before we begin, we want to acknowledge the land on which Harvard sits. It is the traditional territory of the Massachusetts people, and it is the place that has long served as a site of meeting and exchange among nations.
Ashley and I are the co-presidents of NAC, the Community for Indigenous Undergraduates at Harvard. Every year, we come together to celebrate the resilience and cultural survival of Indigenous peoples at Harvard, in the United States, and in the rest of the world.
This year, as we reflect on the meaning of Indigenous Peoples Day, we implore Harvard University to honor its commitment to Indigenous peoples as outlined in the Harvard Charter of 1650, which entreats the university to provide all necessary provisions for the education of English and Indian youth. Currently, Harvard University recognizes October 14th, the second Monday in October, as both Indigenous Peoples Day and Columbus Day. Yet, it is impossible to celebrate and honor the resilience of Indigenous peoples while also celebrating the man that kidnapped and enslaved our ancestors, and whose arrival perpetuates one of the largest genocides in world history.
The building that we stand in front of now, Matthews Hall, was the site of the original Indian College, where 5 Native students lived and worked at Harvard beginning in 1655. Now, almost 400 years later, we are here today to celebrate their legacy and to make our communities and our nations proud. So, Yakuke,
Hinigigi.
thank you for being here.
And right now, we're going to do an opening prayer for everyone. So.
Arnold Koshiketo Shitana. Alkahasi Loshe ya Kiana Gorman in Shieto, Donna and Schleniki Aya, Totajin in Slon, Totsoni, Bashin Kia, Ani Dash Chedoma, Dashana Kot Ait Nastin Schleto, Salana Holiet, and Ata, you see Ata on Asha. A co dish ya Naka to the day. Hello, my name is Kiana Gorman. I am Dana from a small community called Little Rocks, Salana. I am of the Bitterwater clan and born for the Big Water clan. And today I will be praying for you guys. And I just want to announce and let you know if you would like to smudge with sage, my friend over there in the yellow blouse and teal dress will be standing there with sage. So if you would like to smudge yourself while I'm praying or after the prayer, that will be there at the tree for you guys already. Shimon Hassan, Shetkayat Kon, Ikon Lodole, Yitata Hatzin Dole, Ikon Lodole, the Jet of a Sketole, Yinet of a Ket, the Batsketole, in Sakis, Yada Eto, Lekon, Ikon Lodole, Ashwanden, the Schnito, Shashidini. هون يبدأ خدتين شكيت خدتين فون هون هيتخاهي فون اللوطو ليش هون هيتخا خلصلكو يا تاني إيكو ناسي خاطو ليش الجاك هون بيل هاد هيت عنده يت هند فون هيتسكتو ليش هيتخا خلصلتو ليش ناسي خاطو ليش أني سخط بلا أشكلا إتاني كليني نخاش شنو تاني له أكو هون نكيس فون اللوطو ليش Dan hit zito leh shaha inskabo hit kon loni zeta dieni jato the net pa zeta dieni.
Cambridge's mayor, Mayor McGovern, come and speak, say a few words. So everyone, let's welcome Mayor McGovern.
Good afternoon. And thank you for inviting me to share Indigenous Peoples Day with you and to represent Cambridge's commitment to recognizing and uplifting the Native people of this continent and across the globe. I especially want to thank Anna Kate, Ashley Hamilton, and the entire board of the Native Americans at Harvard College organization for their work to ensure that Indigenous voices and perspectives are heard here at Harvard and by the world community that gathers here. Far before Cambridge was officially incorporated in 1846, before the state joined in the federal experiment that was the United States, and before Harvard College was founded in 1636, the land on which we now stand was the tribal homeland of the Massachusetts people. Any history that we tell about ourselves, this university, or this city must rightly begin with them. On behalf of the city of Cambridge, I acknowledge the continuing presence of the Massachusetts people and their neighboring Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples. As one of the world's leading institutions of higher learning and the city that calls it home, we can find inspiration in the cultures and ideas of nearly all peoples, if we wish to listen. I hope I see in our community not only the Mashpee and Wampanoag people that are indigenous to this area, but also those who have come to access the education and industries of Cambridge, the Dakota, the Sioux and Cherokee, the Kichimaya of Guatemala, and the Inupiaq of Alaska. The indigenous people who continue to shape our society are as diverse and unique as are the lands and ecosystems of this American continent. I welcome your voice in our community, and I hope you feel welcome to learn, to feel joy, and grow here in Cambridge. Cambridge's history, however, like the rest of the country, is stained by the actions of our ancestors. You don't need to be a historian to see the blemishes of our shining city on a hill. But it's up to us to right those wrongs on our journey to building an inclusive and equitable city. And that includes shelving Columbus Day to allow other perspectives and stories to come forward. In 2016, the Cambridge City Council passed an ordinance formally changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. I'm proud to have been a leader in that historic legislation and set a precedent for young people everywhere. I can tell you that the council hasn't stopped there either. Earlier this term, we started the work at re-examining the peoples whose names we still enshrine on our streets and monuments. Slave owners or slave trade profiteers, men who use the emerging tools of science to cast pale of racism and oppression on people of color, while manipulating nature to find evidence of their white supremacy. Of course, restorative justice is systemic and time-consuming. It is more than just changing names on our streets and public buildings. It is about dealing with income inequality, reversing the racist policies of redlining in our community. It's about working to curb the opioid crisis and homelessness. It's about launching conversations, which I did this year, called Cambridge Digs Deep, to confront racism, white supremacy right here in Cambridge. But the city government can't do it alone, which is why I appreciate so much the work being done by students here to correct the injustices that they see in Cambridge. From Y to Y, one of the only youth homeless shelters in the area right here in Harvard Square, to an opioid task force here at Harvard working to get Narcan in all Harvard buildings to curb opioid death, to Divest Harvard and other student organizations dealing with environmental justice. I thank you. In closing, I want you to know that I not only see and acknowledge you, I also see you looking at me and my fellow leaders in public office, looking for immediate action to curb a warming world and the destruction of our irreplaceable ecosystems, looking for a future without insurmountable debt from student loans or health care, looking for a modern transportation system that connects people to opportunities without burning more fossil fuels, and looking for equal protection for Indigenous women and girls who face murder rates that are more than 10 times higher than national average. So as we in positions of power have to do better. And I know that you will hold us accountable. For as long as I am mayor, you will have a seat at the table, and I will stand with you so that this generation, my children's generation, and all the ones after it can work to mend our relationship with the Indigenous community and work with them as partners to build a better, safer, and greener world for all. Thank you all very much for being here, and thank you very much for the work that you do every day.
Woo!
Before I step down, I want to make one quick announcement. So there are a number of activities going on this week and this month that the mayor's office in the city is sponsoring around Indigenous Peoples Day. So two that I think you may be particularly interested in is next Friday from 5:30 to 7:30 at City Hall. We will be showing the movie 500 Years as open to the public. It is about Indigenous people in Guatemala. So please come and enjoy that movie. And then at 7:30, we are on the lawn of City Hall, we are having an open mic night around Indigenous Peoples Day to support the Indigenous community. So if you have any musicians or poets or speakers in the audience, please come to that at 7:30 and join with us in celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day. Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Professor Joe Gahn, who is the Faculty Director of the Harvard University Native American Program.
Good afternoon. It's really a pleasure to join you today. You can tell the generation gap around here by those of us who use papers and those of us who use phones to speak to you today. Start with a brief opening to introduce myself. As was said, my name is Joe Gahn, and I am a newly appointed faculty member here for about a year at Harvard. I teach in the anthropology department in arts and sciences, as well as in global health and social medicine medical school. And I'm also recently appointed the new faculty director of the Harvard University Native American Program. And I suppose it's under these auspices that I was invited by the Native Americans at Harvard College to come say a few words to you today. So I'm really pleased and eager to do that. It's been really great to come back to Harvard. I was here 30 years ago when I first arrived. I remember walking through the gates at this corner as an early 20-year-old something or other, and being really taken with and intoxicated by the intellectual atmosphere and energy that was characteristic of Harvard at that time, and I think still is. And I'll tell you more about that in a moment, but first let me shift then to sharing a few remarks with you, really in 4 different segments of rounds. So let's start really with round 1. Round 1 has to do really with Harvard and a recognition of a couple of things about Harvard that you've already heard about today. I just want to underscore those things because I think if there are 2 important things you should take away about Harvard today relative to Indigenous peoples, they are these things. First and foremost, you heard the territorial acknowledgement that opened these ceremonies, as well as the mayor offering a recognition of the peoples who were here prior to Harvard and who endure to this day in this domain, in this region, in this area. And it's really important that we recognize Indigenous presence because so much of American history has been about erasing that presence from our awareness and our histories and our mentalities. And yet, paradoxically, Indians are everywhere. They're just pretend Indians, fake Indians, stereotyped Indians, marginalized Indians, whether it's street names, whether it's products on the supermarket shelves, whether it's cartoons, whether it's mascots. You do see Indians all the time. They just happen not to be living people who are heirs to these descendants of these ancestors that we recognize at times like today. So the first thing is to recognize that. The second thing is to recognize that what was also mentioned earlier in the opening remarks was the Charter of 1650 here at Harvard. The Charter of 1650 is the governing documents that have organized and committed Harvard to particular kinds of an endeavor, and that charter reads as follows. Quote, whereas the good hand of God, whereas through the good hand of God, many well-devoted persons have been and daily are moved and stirred up to give and bestow sundry gifts, legacies, lands, and revenues for the advancement of all good literature, arts, and sciences in Harvard College in Cambridge and the County of Middlesex, and in the maintenance of the President and Fellows for all accommodations of buildings and all other necessary provisions that may conduce to the education of the English and Indian youth of this country in knowledge and godliness. So as mentioned, that Matthews Hall stands on the site of the original Indian College. It's important to recognize that early in its history, Harvard was hard up for funds. The interest was in founding a college that would educate ministers that could go out and spread the gospel to the Indian peoples of this region. But because they were hard up for funds, they needed a campaign, a fundraising campaign, by which they sent emissaries into Great Britain and other parts of the world to create funds, and those funds are what were donated on behalf of this Indian college because it was about Indian education. Well, As was mentioned, 5 Indian students actually lived in this college for not very long, and then it was mostly forgotten for several centuries. And so the native students you see here today are the legacy of this Indian college, even though it's not widely recognized or understood that Harvard retains that commitment through its founding documents. So those are the 2 things about Harvard that I think you really want to take away as we think about Indigenous Peoples Day. Let's shift now to round 2. Let me talk now about when I came here as a student back when I was 21 years old. I arrived as a transfer student, a junior. I came to join this community and sought out and participated in the Native American students, groups that were formed. At that time, the undergraduate community was not that interested in events and activities like this. Events and activities that made demands of the university or that criticized things that the university were doing, such as not only recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day, but also Columbus Day. And so, I hung out really with graduate students at that time, and it was in May of 1991 that a community of about 20 Indian students, mostly graduate students, assembled to have a pipe ceremony, a spiritual practice that inaugurated what we came to call the Council of Native American Students at Harvard, CONASH, Council of Native American Students at Harvard. CONASH was interested, just like these students here are today, in persuading Harvard to make some changes. And at that time, the big change that needed to be made was that the Native American program had long been established and supervised in the ed school. But most Indian students at Harvard were not only in the ed school, but other faculties and schools as well. And so it was important to think about trying to persuade them to move the Native American program out into the university-wide umbrella organized fashion that it is today. We actually had a few different things we were interested in trying to persuade Harvard to achieve. I just want to share with you what those were. First was the establishment of a university-wide Native American program, as I just described. This took some time, but within that end of that decade, it happened. And today, the Harvard University Native Program is university-wide and overseen directly in the provost's office. But we also asked to ensure that Harvard complied with the Charter of 1650 to include the establishment of a scholarship endowment for Native Americans. Now, it's not entirely clear that has been realized, although as you know, Harvard has need-blind admissions and an incredible financial aid commitment to its students. And so whether this remains the same pressing priority it once was, we would need to revisit. We also asked that Harvard would develop and standardize admissions policy for Native Americans. As you know, Harvard is widely decentralized, a little bit challenging to do this, and HUNAP continues to engage with admissions offices across the different schools and faculties to try and make sure that proper recruitment and retention can occur. We sought to have Harvard increase Native American faculty. Well, you might know that last year, 2018, 4 new Native and Indigenous Studies faculty arrived to Harvard. So it was sort of a record opportunity to have a presence and a voice, courses, and activity happening here for the first time in its history. We also asked that Harvard establish a Native American faculty endowed chair. This is to be continued. An endowed chair actually costs a lot of money, but this is something that we're talking about in a revitalized way, and we'll see what we can do in the next several years. We asked that Harvard develop and implement a Native American curriculum. Well, actually, Harvard as such doesn't develop curriculum. Faculty develop curricula, and now with the faculty, I think this is at last in our reach to try to develop some kind of integrated and coordinated curriculum that students can take. In fact, what was remarkable in the fall was that there were 10 courses with Indigenous Studies content listed as offered for students. I believe that must be a new record for our time here. Finally, we asked for timely compliance with the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act of 1990, or NAGPRA. This has to do with the museums and all of the bones and funerary objects and materials that in some cases were stolen from tribal communities. And Harvard did in fact create and respond to that law in all kinds of important ways. There might still be some work to go, but I'm really happy to recognize some of my colleagues who have joined a committee to advise the museum on how to do this, maybe less literally in the legal sense of the law and more in the spirit of the law, of partnering with Native communities and engaging in ways that must happen. So that's what I wanted to say about CONASH and activity. Let me close today by saying that we have an interest in this effort of trying to get Harvard to change some things that it does. And the main thing that we've been asked to think about today is altering the sponsorship of Columbus Day. Now, Columbus, sailing the ocean blue, arriving as he did, obviously was a monumental event in world history. It would be difficult to overstate the significance and the impact and the legacy of that venture. Obviously, that venture had massive consequences for the peoples of this hemisphere. Most of those consequences were not good, and a blithe celebration of Columbus without any deeper analysis or critique is really not appropriate. And so I think the issue here becomes one of trying to figure out what would be needed, as the students have stated as their endeavor, to try and persuade the university to really honor and only honor Indigenous Peoples Day. So I suggest that to do so, a couple things need to happen. I think any time that you're trying to mobilize for a change in an institution that's as complex as a place like Harvard, there really are 4 phases you want to think about. One phase has to do with assessing the problem. So obviously we're signing petitions. We have implored Harvard. That's good to implore. It's good to sign petitions. But probably this hasn't gone away from requests before for some reason or another. And the question is, why hasn't this already been addressed? And in order to answer that question with the proper information that's needed, probably we need to do some work around figuring out what exactly is the issue. How come it's reluctant to stop recognizing Columbus Day in this way? What are the arguments and the constituencies that keep it in place? Once that assessment is done, it leads to a formulation. That is a characterization of what the issues really are. And that formulation then can feed into a sense of strategy. What are the strategies needed to alter some of the parameters on the ground that became clear through that formulation that will lead to the change, hopefully lead to the change desired. And then, of course, once the strategies are clear, action is at hand. And it's time to mobilize and to do things, talk with people, or do whatever's needed to get things done. Our time is short up here. I'm really grateful for the floor that you've given me for this period of time. I'm excited to see you all. I'm really, really proud and honored by the fact that these students are taking it upon themselves to organize an activity like this on Indigenous Peoples Day. So congratulations to you. Thanks for attending, and I look forward to seeing you all around in the future.
We're going to start some student performances. But first, we want to talk about, like everyone has kind of mentioned, the fact that we have a petition.
Yes, we have a petition on change.org right now. Currently has over 1,000 signatures, and we're looking to get as many as possible. And that is linked in all of our social media. If you search Native Americans at Harvard College on Instagram, on Facebook, that'll be linked there. When we go inside, we will also have laptops set up where you can sign the petition from there.
So thank you guys for coming out. Next, we're going to have Kennard Dillon. He is a senior currently, and he will be doing spoken word, and he's also the treasurer of our board. So let's welcome Kennard.
Yad she Kennard Dillon Yinishet, Torish in Initially, Zifkai Bashin, Nash Aja Tabahantashiche, Do Zifkai Dashanale, Tonanesisit De Nasha. Hi everyone, my name is Kennard Dillon. As Ashley said, I'm a senior here at Harvard. I study history and I live in John Winthrop House, and I'll say that later. But I'm a citizen of the Navajo Nation, and I'm also San Carlos Apache and Hopi. And I wrote this poem like 4 years ago, and as I was telling a friend, like an angsty 20-year-old wrote this poem, so hopefully it doesn't come off as that angsty. But I was kind of inspired about it. I was inspired by it because an auntie was talking about one of my great aunts on my dad's side. Her name was Helen Hopkins. So after the Apache surrendered to the US government, we were the last ones to surrender. They broke us up. They deported men to Florida and Oklahoma, and then they took the kids and sent them to Carlisle Industrial School in Pennsylvania. And so she was sent to Carlisle School, but she later escaped with her brother, and they made it all the way back to Oklahoma from Pennsylvania. And then they regrouped with other Apaches, and then they went all the way back to Arizona, I'm assuming on foot, because this is the late 19th century. So when she returned home, she sobbed and knelt down on the ground and said, "From this day forward, I will never wear any of the white man's clothes or shoes, and I will never speak another word in their tongue. It is finished." So then she ended up living out her days as a gifted medicine woman and healer, because she cast aside and burned the clothes that they gave her at Carlisle. So both of my lineages bear the scars of genocide and assimilation. All four of my grandparents went to government boarding schools in different parts of the country. So that's kind of what this is about. And I live in John Winthrop House, as I said. It's named after two John Winthrops. One was a slave owner. I think they were both presidents of Harvard. And the other one, the main one, he was the first governor of Massachusetts. And so he was a big, strong believer in, I forget the whole name of the theory, but when the Puritans got here, their whole theory was, well, if the land's not cultivated, then it's totally ours for the taking. So I always thought that it was ironic that I live in Winthrop House. Anyway, I'll stop talking and do the piece. My words are only as strong as the conviction behind them, and I'm just a sad brown boy with curly hair and bad posture, trying to make it in this white supremacist world, brown as the dirt I grew up on, and this world isn't kind to me. It would rather see me dead because the only good Indian is a dead Indian. America, America, America. It only took me 20 years to realize that I don't love you, and I never will. Now all I want for Christmas is decolonization. Decolonization. That word that Harvard students love to toss around and mull over. Let it roll off their tongues so sultry and radical-like. Tall order though, you can't rewind 527 years, 243 under those god-awful stars and stripes, which I'd rather wipe my ass with than salute. You can't give me back the language you stole from my mother, from me, from us, nor can you give back that uranium you gobbled up from beneath our homeland. Another day I am alive, another day I have to exist angry at the world, angry at myself for not being too articulate enough to stand here and voice my sorrows, for staying silent in silence and disappointing my ancestors that died in those marches, that lie buried in that alkaline soil. You chewed us up and spat us out. You made them believe in you. I believed in you, believed that I too was an American, but I am not. Shidna'eh, why do you shame me for growing up in this colonized world, from a colonized womb, 6 years old, staring down at my skin, staring at the mirror in my eyes, dark, almost black, just like my hair. I hate how brown I am. I hate how thick my hair is. I am full of anger and pain. I am what happens when a Navajo woman and an Apache man love each other very much. From my grandparents being for speaking their mother tongues, to my mom, her culture stolen, sanitized, packed into a neat nuclear family upbringing. I am more than your fetish for chicken, feather regalia, and shitty dreamcatcher tattoos. You love our patterns, you love our hair, you love our stories, but do you love us? Mom, I love you. I love you so much. The world was cruel to you, and it did not make you cruel, but it did break you. Kennard is mean. Kennard is so angry. My reputation precedes me. Why do you expect me to respect your hurt feelings when you erase my entire existence, silence my voice, and validate my experiences? I know that you will never love me as much as you love everything that my people have given. We gave you our culture, we gave you our language, our sons, our daughters. What do I have left to give you? We will never be good enough. I will never be good enough for your standards of whiteness and respectability. You want me to be seen, not heard, so you can tout and show me off as proof of the diversity of the academic circle jerk that is Harvard. I stand here, I like to think that the president and Rakesh can hear us, but I stand here now speaking the language you forced upon me. You robbed me of my culture, of my stories, of my strength. You condemned me to spiritual confliction and cultural death. I am salt, I flavor the earth. To the portrait of John Winthrop, I say, what's good? You starch-collared Puritan war criminal. What say you that this brown boy sins with other brown boys in the house that bears your name, no less? To the brown boys and girls back on the res, back in Denevicea, I love you. To the brown boy on that res that now stands before you, stop being so fucking hard on yourself. How lucky I must be that my parents and their parents and theirs and theirs and theirs and theirs lived and loved and survived. And here I am, flesh and bone willed into solid reality to share the stories and shout and be angry that the world does not recognize my humanity. And that I'm no longer afraid. I'm no longer afraid. I'm no longer afraid. I am no longer afraid. Okay, thanks. And then, so next up I will have two other Navajos join me, and we're gonna. Oh, okay. So Keanu is gonna come up and join me, and we're gonna sing you a love song.
Okay, so the song we will be performing is called Song and Dance Romance. It talks, basically, it's about a couple breaking up, and it's a song of endearment. So basically they want to get back together, and this song was written, I guess, out of heartbreak. So if you've ever had a Navajo lover and they broke your heart, this song is for you.
It's probably me, but okay. Whoa, 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 way in Ahia. Way in Ahia, whoa, 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 way in Ahia. Way in Ahia, way in Ahia. Way in, hey, 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 yeah. Goshis mo jowo, goshis ta inia. Goshis mo jowo, goshis ta inia. Goshis mo jowo, goshis ta inia. Hey, 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 yeah. Sorry about this.
We practiced.
We did. Nia bilti so I tien jin wo shits a ini ya like hey 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 young yo whoa 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 way na ya way na yo whoa 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 way na ya way na ya way na ya way ya yeah sa ni shits a ini ya sa ni shits a ini ya
So, sorry about that, we did practice. But I will now be performing another song. This song I learned back in middle school. I was a part of something called the Native Bobcat Club back at my high school in Chinle, Arizona. So just a little bit about that. The reason why I joined Native Bobcat Club is because growing up, although I grew up speaking my language fluently, my mom was Christian, or my mom is still Christian. And so growing up, she suppressed any sort of growth in learning and traditional ways of knowing and being. And for a very long time, it created this hole in my heart because I always felt that I needed to hide my own culture and practicing my own culture within my own home, on my own res, in my own homelands. So what I want to say is continue to support young Indigenous youth, no matter where they're at, no matter who they are. They need a lot of guidance, and they have a lot of strength. They have a lot of resilience. They have a lot of intelligence and a lot of creativity. So if you know an Indigenous youth, continue to support them. Give them words of endearment. Continue to open your heart up to them. And I know as people who are Indigenous youth, but also people who support other Indigenous youth, or just support Indigenous youth in general, you know, we might not give the best advice, or we may not do the best things, but just continue to open up your heart to them. And as an Indigenous youth, that's what I want to ask of you all. And so this next song I'm going to be performing is a song that I learned from being a part of that club. And so, as I said, continue to support Indigenous youth. And the last song I will be performing is called My Horses. And it tells a story of how your horse is your companion, your guidance in all of the worlds, because they emerge from all of the worlds. So this next song is called My Horses. Hayol kalbi yaşte şili sakay koşes nahot ke hey neya azat ey yosh kay be al yakob ze salah hey neya owe 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 yo owe ya hey neya nehotok ish bi yaşte şili tok ish ko just nahot ke hey Neya azat ey tokji be al yakob ze salah hey neya ayuhal be yashte sheli sakay koshes nahot hey neya azat ey yoshkay be al yakob ze salah hey neya nehotsui be yashte sheli so koshes nahot hey neya azat ey tichse beze salah koshes nahot hey neya azat ey tokji be al yakob ze salah hey neya owe 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 yo owe ya hey neya chahas Yaşte şeli hüzün koşes nahot hey neya azat ey başını be al yakob ze salah hey neya.
Applause to both Keanu and Kennard for beautiful singing and performing. Next, we're going to have Victor from Harvard Medical School come up and say a few words and sing as well. Yeah.
Victor, I want to come up here because I found it to be more efficient to get all the smoke signals jokes out in like one single dose as opposed to over the course of the year. I'm also going to be singing a song. This is a Thanksgiving song. It's giving thanks for traditionally for the deer. I'm a member of the Crow Creek Sioux tribe, and I'm also from the Pasco Yaqui tribe in Tucson, Arizona, where I grew up. And the deer is one of our most sacred animals, and it's just a general thanks, a way to give thanks, but traditionally we would give thanks to the deer, which represents our creator and the great spirit and everything that ties our community together pretty much. I also wanted to say thank you to the undergrad. There's only a few of us over there at the medical school. Some of us here in the crowd. This is really amazing, and it's really great to be here. So thank you.
Ale ale ko maso yo me ya no ho we ona hey hey yo we. Ale ale ko maso yo me ya no ho we ona we. Ale ale ko maso yo me ya no ho we ona we. Ale ale ko maso yo me ya no ho we ona hey hey yo we. Ale ale ko maso yo me ya no ho we ona we. Ale ale ko maso yo me ya no ho we ona we. Ale ale ko maso yo me ya no ho we ona hey hey yo we. Ale ale tu maso yo me ya no to we o my way. Ale ale tu maso yo me ya no to we o my way. Ale ale ko maso yo me ya no ho we ona hey hey yo we. Ale ale ko maso yo me ya no ho we ona we. Ale ale ko maso yo me ya no ho we ona we. Ale ale ko maso yo me ya no ho we ona hey hey yo we. Thank you.
To have a poetry reading from Bridget Chamberlain, who is a first year in NEC.
Right. Hi everyone, thank you for being here. My name's Bridget. I was born in Minnesota, but I grew up in Michigan, and then I went to high school in Indiana. But my tribe is from southeastern Ontario. I'm Mohawk. All right, so the first thing that I would like to read today is just part of the Mohawk translation of the Thanksgiving address, which was performed by many different nations, but I would like to I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's quite long, but I would like to share just some of my favorite pieces of this address. All right, so 1, the people. Today we have gathered and we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now we bring our minds together as one and we give greetings and thanks to each other as people. Now our minds are one. The Earth Mother. We are thankful to our mother, the earth, for she gives us all that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk about upon her. It gives us joy that she continues to care for us as she has from the beginning of time. To our mother, we send greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one. The waters. We give thanks to all the waters of the world for quenching our thirst and providing us with strength. Water is life. We know its power in many forms. Waterfalls and rain, mists and streams, rivers and oceans. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the spirit of water. Now our minds are one. The animals. We gather our minds together to send greetings and thanks to all the animal life in the world. They have many things to teach us as people. We are honored by them when they give up their lives so we may use their bodies as food for our people. We see them near our homes and deep in the forests. We are glad that they are still here and we hope it will always be so. Now our minds are one. To the birds. We put our minds together as one and thank all the birds who move and fly about over our heads. The Creator gave them beautiful songs. Each day they remind us to enjoy and appreciate life. The eagle was chosen to be their leader. To all the birds, from the smallest to the largest, we send our joyful greetings and thanks. Now our minds are one. To the stars, we give thanks to the stars who are spread across the sky like jewelry. We see them in the night, helping the moon to light the darkness and bringing dew to the gardens and growing things. When we travel at night, they guide us home. With our minds gathered together as one, we send greetings and thanks to the stars. Now our minds are one. To the Creator, now we turn our thoughts to the Creator, or Great Spirit, and send greetings and thanks for all the gifts of creation. Everything we need to live a good life is here on this Mother Earth. For all the love that is still around us, we gather our minds as one and send our choicest words of greetings and thanks to the Creator. Now our minds are one. All right, I think that those are some really important things to be thankful for, especially as we're considering both the trauma that comes with a lot of the ideas around colonization and just the things that we have in mind on Indigenous Peoples Day, but it also reminds us of how much we still have to be thankful for and how happy I am that we're all here together today. So next, I would like to share a poem that I wrote. And the reason that I read the Thanksgiving address first is because I allude to it a couple of times and to other things throughout the poem. But I hope you enjoy. Now our minds are one. Now our minds are one. Now our minds are one. It's hard to get our heads together when you burn our longhouse down. The words flow together better than we do anymore. Foreign words, English words roll off the tongue like venom. Apartheid, genocide, settler colonialism, all sounds the same to me. Say it how you like, that which we call a dead Indian by any other name would smell as forgotten. So time goes on, and let the priests rape Indian boys without braids in their Indian schools, rip Indian words off Indian tongues like peeling your Idaho potatoes that Indians grew in the Andes, the Grand Tetons. Gradual civilization sounds like drawn-out death to my Indian ears, ears that mirror ears of corn and are yet parted from their two other sisters. My black bean eyes and soft squash heart are misplaced, divorced, deported, sent to separate reserves like endangered animals or invasive species. They are formless and limp without their starchy trellis to support them. Can't grow in this garden, can't suck up scents through ears uncleared, can't send out leaves like olive branches, can't connect, can't bloom. Just tears and blood spill forth like a flood. My mind, my body all piecemeal. My mind, my body isn't one. So time goes on and section 141 rolls up like a gun against a spear, says no more lawyers, no more counsel, legal or tribal, says no more women, no more status, no more Indian women married to white men being Indian women, makes it easy to steal us that way. If you can knock her up, you can marry her. If you can marry her, you can assimilate her on your white paper, and if she's you on paper, she's nobody to the land, just another settler, settler by conversion, a settler in law. So time goes on and it's 1951. Some white thinkers with enlightened white minds got this great idea called human rights, because concentration camps bubbled up from the post-war rubble, death machines too compact to ignore. And your country mourned the men who died for their liberation. Our men, fallen warriors who went to war for the country their great-grandfathers were warriors against. And you said okay, said culture, said freedom of expression, self-determination, said vote by 1960. We said we had democracy. Why the hell should we want yours? My mind ain't never gonna be one with yours. So time goes on, it's 1980, and they decide to honor our treaties finally from 1763. Treaties dead men signed, gave back our paper women, cried self-governance, tears we've been shedding for a while. We build new longhouses beneath government capellas, plywood kitchens. We collect our minds, our wits, make our minds one with peoples we can no longer afford to hold as rivals. We're trying to remember. As time is going on, in the 32 years following 1980, the police reported around 1,200 missing and murdered Indigenous Canadian women, Canada alone. Our women put our minds together and counted 4,000, maybe more. Their right to vote, their repatriation, their land rights didn't make them any less dead. I guess we got our status back at last, so they had to find a different way to steal our women and girls away. 2019 and the police don't even have a missing persons register. And what's a nation with no census? No people. Indian and independent are not one. So today I'm sending a prayer down the highway of tears, a smoke signal, a recitation of resuscitation, I hope it finds the bodies of sisters the law leaves behind that the police can't find. I hope it breathes in their air, beads their hair, their feet, their hands, brings the flowers and ashes to send them off properly, their final departure, and carry their souls back home. May our minds drift far enough to find the dead, like Eagle Boy with synapses for wings. Fly me away to that stolen place that my mind might find the bones, that our minds might return to being one. Our minds are one, one, one. Your pretty little parliament need not repeat this prayer, this summoning. They wear condolences like a false face mask, except without any medicine. Take off your well wishes and set down to write. Write a new future inspired in the past we've already written. Count our women, find the bodies. We both know you've got the money. And consider this, that maybe this white man's fundamental rights world is wrong after all. Because we may be weakened now, keening, but that's only because of how we were taken from our mother's arms, taken off our Mother Earth, transplanted and rejected by the immune body of your big society. Assimilation was a rotten apple from the start, red on the outside, white on the inside, a cardinal broken body, incongruence, irreconcilable. We may be weakened now, but we grow strong in connection when we rekindle age-old links between our mothers and their mothers' mothers and their mothers' mothers' mothers. The taproot of matrilineage will nourish us well, not just 3 sisters, but all 4,000 lost and all the sisters living. Together cultivated, bloom. We'll find each other someday if this settler apartheid shoves aside. Make way for this national funeral procession, or maybe the wedding ceremony of our many minds. Make way, our minds can once again be one. Our minds are one. Our minds are one. Come home. Thank you.
Come and say, do a poem. Okay, thank you. It's good to be back at Harvard. I'm here at the Radcliffe Institute for Advanced Studies this year, and when I arrived on campus 24 years ago, this building had just been dedicated. All right. Nunaktilit, people related through common possession of territory. The enemy misled that missed the island in the fog. I believe in one or the other, but both exist now to confuse me. Dark from dark, snow from snow. I believe in one craggy boundary, knife blade at the throat's slight swell. From time to time, the sound of voices as through sun-shinned grass, or grasses that we used to insulate the walls of our winter houses, walrus hides lashed together with rawhide cords. So warm within the willows and gathered, forced into leaf. I am called for your sister Navayu, call me Apong. Surely there are ghosts here, my children sprung from these deeper furrows. The sky of my mind, against which self-betrayal in its sudden burn fails to describe the world. We who denied the landscape and saw the light of it, leaning against the stone wall, ragged, I began to accept my past, and as I accepted it, I felt, and I didn't understand, I am bound to everyone.
And next we'll hear from Jaden, who is also a first year at NET.
Tagebi, Wachian Kapi Kinwashte. Not Chante na Pei Chius Apie. Jaden Probes Imaki Apie. Padeo Kantua de Mataha, Chashe Api Hemacha. Chashe Api Edwa T. Wania Tuma Akesha Karoha. Harvard College Edwa Badawaye. Hello everyone, I'm happy to see all of you who came out to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day with us. My name is Jaden Probst and I am Spirit Lake Dwellers Dakota from southwestern Minnesota. I'm a freshman here at Harvard College. And first, I want to say on Petu Kinde Ikeche Uchasa on Petu Iapi, Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Like I said, I'm a citizen of the Lower Sioux Indian community. I'm a direct descendant from the Dakota 38+2, which was the largest mass execution in U.S. history. I just want to give a quick plug to sign our petition when we have that. It is very contradictory to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, but also celebrate this man who inflicted so much harm, genocide, and disease onto Indigenous communities. So in the spirit of fully celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day, I do not want to dwell on the topic of him. Indigenous Peoples Day is all about recognizing that we are still here. We are part of the culture in this country and on this campus, so we deserve to have our holiday fully celebrated. Indigenous people have overcome so much adversity over the centuries, and every Indigenous person is a product of that. In Dakota culture, we have a teaching called the 7 generations. Basically, we are here because of the 7 generations who came before us, and our purpose is to do everything we can for the 7 generations who come after us. As an incoming freshman at Harvard, I was worried about not being able to find my group that made me feel like I belonged back like I did back home. But I know that I'm here for a reason, as are all the Indigenous students on this campus. We are making this our culture and our space. We are embedding Native culture into this institution, and I think that is something that deserves to be celebrated. I want to end this brief speech with a poem that was assigned for one of my classes. My professor, Shawan Canoe, is an Ojibwe professor, and she assigned a poem that's called Repatriating Ourselves by Eric Gainsworth. There is no need for you to give back to us what we already own. This is who we are in the present tense. No climate control, no tatters of cloth, no catalog bones, no beads on loan. No boxes, no labels, no ceremonial tables, no tags, no medicine bags, no hermetic healers, no deadly disease, no hypotheses, no educated guesses, no dioramas, no dramas, no arrays of diaspora disconnects, no displays of personal effects. In the present tense, this is who we are. What we already own, there is no need for you to give back to us. Pinamayapi, thank you.
And next, Laura Coe is going to dance. Laura is a sophomore in NAC, and she is also our secretary.
Laura Coe. Chikasha Saya. Hi, I'm Laura. I'm Chikasa. I'm gonna dance. I told myself that because I wanted to speak here for a long time, but when I finally speak, I want to speak in my native language, which I don't know. Like a lot of people said, this day has a long history of sadness, and I want to celebrate the happiness that goes along with my tribe, which I associate, and I also associate with dance. So, yeah. The song is Prayers in a Song by Tall Paul, who is an Anishinaabe artist. Yeah. Check him out.
I feel the latent effects of assimilation in a city native raised by bright light skyscrapers, born with dim prospects, little peace in living as a child. Hot-headed about the fact I wasn't wild like they called my ancestors. Imagine what it'd be to live nomadic off the land and free. Instead, I was full of heat like a furnace, cause I wasn't furnished with the language and traditional ways of my peeps. Yeah, I used to feel like I wasn't truly indigenous. Now I say me which get your money due for showing me my true roots.
Sorry, I'm gonna start again.
I feel the latent effects of assimilation in a city native raised by bright light skyscrapers, born with dim prospects, little peace in living as a child. Hot-headed about the fact I wasn't wild like they called my ancestors. Imagine what it'd be to live nomadic off the land and free. Instead, I was full of heat like a furnace, cause I wasn't furnished with the language and traditional ways of my peeps. Yeah, I used to feel like I wasn't truly indigenous. Now I say me which get your money due for showing me my true roots. Definitely native. Take responsibility for being educated. My people and customs originating from early phases of history. It's deeper than fry bread and contest powwows. Tears shedding the sweat, large prayers go out to all those I've wronged and who had wronged me. Gotta treat them like family. Get your money due, we do cowashin. Cimash ko isiyan, ni dash pa mit edesiyan. Ni shishanam zage iway when good news shishanam. Isn't that wishanam? Ni wang chinaka wangyan. Ni mashomis we do cowashanam. Jina budget too young, anishanam bayi jitwawin. Me jit big, it came to my kaya. Nishanam baby my dizzy win.
We just want to say a quick thank you for everyone for coming here and celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day with us. Right now, we're done with student performances, speakers and everything. We want to do a round dance with everyone. Everyone for that beautiful round dance.
I'm coming, let me take a picture real quick. Okay.